Kim Tae-ho walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers. His black diplomatic suit was perfectly pressed, and his shoes clicked softly against the crystal floor. Behind him, Park Ji-woo carried a data pad filled with notes about alien customs. Both humans had spent months learning how to behave properly around the other species. The chamber was enormous. It could hold thousands of beings from across the galaxy. Today, representatives from 12 different species sat in their assigned sections. The Valians floated in their energy bubbles, looking like ghosts made of light. The Zephyrite stood, tall and still, their crystal bodies reflecting the chamber's soft blue glow. The Gorvakians took up the most space, each one twice the size of a human and covered in thick armor-like skin. Tae-ho stopped at the center of the chamber and bowed deeply to each section. This was the proper way to greet the council, according to the protocol books Earth had received. Ji-woo watched carefully, making sure her boss followed every rule perfectly. One mistake could embarrass all of humanity. The other species watched the humans with quiet amusement. In the Valian section, energy beings whispered to each other in voices like wind chimes. The humans looked so eager to please, so desperate to fit in. It was almost cute, like watching children trying to act like adults. "Welcome, Human Representative Kim Tae-ho," said Council Speaker Velthara, a Valian whose voice echoed through the chamber. "We trust your journey from Earth was comfortable?" "Yes, honored Speaker," Tae-ho replied, keeping his voice respectful and quiet. "Earth is grateful for this opportunity to address the Council." The Gorvakian section rumbled with what might have been laughter. Commander Gorvtok, their largest representative, leaned forward in his massive chair. His voice was like rocks grinding together when he spoke. "Such politeness from the newcomers," Gorvtok said. "Tell us, little human, what does Earth wish to discuss today?" Tae-ho felt a flash of annoyance at being called little human, but his expression never changed. He had trained for this moment. Every human diplomat learned to control their emotions when dealing with other species. Earth needed allies, not enemies. "Earth requests permission to expand our trading routes through the Kepler sector," Tae-ho said. "Our merchant ships could bring valuable resources to Council worlds." The Zephyrite representative, a being called Zinthera, stepped forward. When Zephyrite moved, they sounded like wind blowing through glass tubes. "The Kepler sector has been under Zephyrite protection for 3,000 years. Why should we allow human ships to disturb our ancient trade paths? We would follow all existing regulations," Tae-ho said quickly. "Human ships would travel only on approved routes. We seek cooperation, not conflict." More rumbling came from the Gorvakian section. They found human cautiousness amusing. Where they came from, species took what they wanted through strength, not by asking politely. Ji-woo stood behind Tae-ho, watching everything carefully. Her job was to record every detail of council meetings. She noticed how the aliens looked at them, like adults watching children play dress-up. The other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. In galactic terms, they were babies. But Ji-woo also noticed other things. She saw how the different alien species grouped together, whispering among themselves. She watched their body language and facial expressions. Most importantly, she recorded everything in her data pad. Earth's intelligence services wanted detailed reports on every council meeting. "The human request will be considered," Speaker Velthara announced. "Council members will vote next cycle. Until then, Representative Kim Tae-ho, we trust you will continue learning our ways." "Of course, honored Speaker," Tae-ho said, bowing again. After the session ended, Tae-ho and Ji-woo walked back to their quarters in the diplomatic section. The hallways were quiet, except for the soft hum of the station systems. Once they were alone, Ji-woo activated a privacy screen around their conversation area. "How do you think it went?" Jiwoo asked. Taeho loosened his tie and sat down heavily, in a chair. Same as always. They treat us like children asking for candy. The Gorvakians were particularly condescending today, Jiwoo noted, reviewing her recordings. Commander Gorvtok called you little human 3 times. I noticed, Taeho said. His voice was tired. Playing the part of a grateful, harmless human was exhausting. Any word from home? Jiwoo checked her secure communications device. Admiral Yoon wants a full report on Zephyrite defensive positions. Dr. Lim is asking about Gorvakian armor composition. The usual requests. Good, Taeho said. Make sure they get everything. What the council members did not know was that every human diplomatic mission served 2 purposes. The obvious purpose was to build relationships and negotiate treaties. The hidden purpose was to gather intelligence on alien military capabilities, technology, and political weaknesses. Earth's leaders were not naive. They knew that being the newest species in the galaxy made them targets. Throughout human history, established powers rarely welcomed newcomers peacefully. The same would likely be true among the stars. So humanity played a careful game. They acted polite and harmless while secretly preparing for the day when politeness would not be enough. Every bow, every honored council member, every request for permission was part of a larger plan. Jiwoo worked late into the night, organizing her observations from the day's session. She noted which species sat together, who spoke first in discussions, and how they reacted to human requests. All of this information would be analyzed by experts on Earth. In the Gorvakian section, Commander Gorvtok met with his advisors. They discussed the human request with amusement. They want to expand their trade routes, one advisor said. Like insects asking to crawl on our territory. Let them crawl, Gorvtok replied. Human ships are small and weak. If they become troublesome, we can crush them easily. The Valians had similar conversations. To them, humans seemed like an eager young species that would eventually learn their place in the galactic order. Some species were meant to lead, others were meant to follow. Humans appeared to be followers. Only a few beings in the galaxy suspected that humanity might be more than they appeared. These individuals had studied human history and noticed disturbing patterns. Humans were the only known species that had united their entire planet under one government. They were also the only species that had developed nuclear weapons before achieving spaceflight. But these voices were ignored by the council. Humans seemed so polite, so eager to please. What harm could they possibly cause? Taeho lay in his bed that night, staring at the ceiling of his diplomatic quarters. Outside his window, alien ships moved through space like slow-moving stars. The galaxy was vast and beautiful, full of wonders that humans were only beginning to discover. But beauty could hide danger, and politeness could hide strength. Tomorrow would bring another council session, more bowing, more careful words. Taeho would continue playing his role as Earth's humble representative. But every day brought humanity closer to the moment when their true nature would be revealed. The galaxy thought it knew humans. Soon it would learn how wrong it was. Dr. Han Yu-jin stared at the massive holographic display in Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Center. Hundreds of red dots moved slowly across the 3-dimensional star map, each one representing an alien warship. The dots were converging on human territory from 6 different directions. How many ships are we looking at? Asked Director Bae Min-ho, Earth's Chief of Intelligence. At least 4,000 vessels, Yu-jin replied, his voice grim. Gorvakian heavy cruisers, Valian energy destroyers, Zephyrite crystal battleships. This isn't a patrol force. This is an invasion fleet. Bae Min-ho studied the display carefully. For 2 years, his agents had been tracking unusual military movements throughout the galaxy. Ships disappearing from their home ports, emergency, military production on dozens of worlds, encrypted communications between species that rarely cooperated. Now the puzzle pieces were finally coming together. "When did you first detect the fleet movements?" Bay asked. 3 months ago, Yujin said. "Small groups at first, moving through remote systems. But in the last 2 weeks, they've been gathering at rally points just outside our sensor range." On the main screen, intercepted alien communications scrolled past in glowing text. Earth's code breakers had been working day and night to decode the messages. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. "Operation Clean Sweep," Bay read aloud. "Complete pacification of human space, elimination of government and military leadership, occupation of all human colonies." The truth was finally clear. The galaxy's older species had grown tired of watching humanity expand. Humans built colonies too quickly, traded too aggressively, and asked too many questions. Worse, they showed signs of becoming a genuine threat to the established order. So the Council had decided to solve their human problem permanently. Yujin pulled up another display showing human territory. 57 colonies scattered across 38 star systems, connected by a network of trade routes and communication relays. Earth's total military consisted of 12 defense platforms and 43 patrol ships. Against 4,000 alien warships, humanity appeared helpless. "They're planning to hit us from 6 directions simultaneously," Yujin explained. "Strike the outer colonies first, then close the noose around Earth itself." "How long do we have?" Bay asked. "Based on their current positions and movement speed, maybe 72 hours before the first attacks begin." Bay nodded grimly. "Send a priority flash message to Ambassador Taeho. He needs to know what we're dealing with." But Yujin was already shaking his head. "Sir, we tried. All communications with the Council station have been jammed. They're not letting any messages through." Thus, aliens had thought of everything. Cut off Earth's diplomatic mission, manufacture an excuse for war, then strike before humanity could organize a defense. It was a perfect plan, assuming humans were as weak and helpless as they appeared, which brought Bay to the biggest secret in human space. "Doctor," he said quietly, "I think it's time to wake up Project Sleeping Giant." Yujin's eyes widened. Like most people in Earth's government, he knew Project Sleeping Giant existed, but the details were classified above his level. Only a handful of humans knew what humanity had really been building during their 50 years in space. "Are you sure, sir?" Yujin asked. "Once we activate Sleeping Giant, there's no going back." "Look at that display," Bay said, pointing at the invasion fleets. "They're planning to exterminate us. I'd say we're already past the point of no return." Bay walked to a secure terminal and entered his authorization codes. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, automated systems began powering up installations that had been dormant for decades. Similar facilities activated on the Moon, Mars, and dozens of human colonies throughout the galaxy. What the aliens did not know was that humanity had never stopped being human, even in space. And humans, throughout their history, had one consistent trait. They prepared for war even during times of peace. For 50 years, while alien species saw humans as harmless traders and eager diplomats, Earth's military had been building the most advanced defense network in galactic history. Every cargo ship that left Earth carried hidden construction materials. Every peaceful colony ship also delivered military equipment. Every diplomatic mission gathered intelligence on alien military capabilities. "Sleeping Giant is active," reported a technician. "All defense platforms are online. Fleet Command is requesting instructions." Admiral Yoon Jae-sung appeared on the main screen via secure hologram. Behind him, the bridge of humanity's newest dreadnought buzzed with activity. "Director Bay," Admiral Yoon said, "we're reading massive alien fleet movements. Are we going to war?" "The aliens declared war on us 3 months ago," Bay replied. "We're just now finding out about it." "Understood, sir. How do you want to handle this?" Bay looked at the strategic display one more time. 4,000 alien ships against humanity's hidden fleet. On paper, the odds still looked bad for humans. But the aliens had made one critical mistake in their planning. They assumed they knew what human technology was capable of. "Admiral," Bay said, "activate the Pandora Protocol. Full implementation." "Sir, are you certain? Pandora is designed for total war scenarios." 4,000 ships heading for Earth sounds like total war to me. Admiral Yoon nodded grimly. "Pandora. Protocol activated. All human forces are now weapons-free. We'll show these aliens what happens when they threaten our home." Throughout human space, dormant systems came online. Defense platforms that looked like mining stations revealed hidden weapon arrays. Cargo ships dropped their disguises and activated military hardware. Transport vessels opened their hulls to release squadrons of fighters. Most impressive of all were the ships that emerged from hidden bases throughout the outer systems. Humanity had been building warships in secret for decades, using technology, reverse-engineered from alien visitors and improved with human innovation. Dr. Lim Hai-young, Earth's chief weapons researcher, watched from her laboratory as her creations prepared for battle. For 20 years, she had studied alien ship designs and found their weaknesses. Gorvakian armor could be dissolved with the right nanopolymers. Valian energy shields were vulnerable to specific frequency disruptions. Zephyrite crystal hulls shattered when exposed to harmonic resonance weapons. "Director Bay," she said over, "the communication system. My weapons are ready for field testing." "Good," Bay replied. "You're about to have 4,000 test subjects." Back on the council station, Kim Tae-ho still stood in the Great Chamber, facing down the assembled alien representatives. He had no way of knowing that Earth was preparing for war, but he could feel that something fundamental had changed. Choi. Dong-wook approached him again, this time carrying a small device that had been quietly receiving updates from Earth's intelligence network. The device contained everything humanity had learned about the coming invasion. "Sir," Dong-wook whispered, "you need to see this immediately." Tae-ho read the intelligence report, and his expression grew cold. Around the chamber, alien representatives were still demanding that Earth accept punishment for the Soul's Pride incident. They had no idea that their military secrets had been discovered. "Honored council members," Tae-ho said, his voice cutting. "Through their discussions, before we continue, I have some information that might interest you." "What information could humans possibly have that would interest the council?" Speaker Velthara asked dismissively. Tae-ho activated the holographic projector that Dong-wook had given him. The chamber filled with images of alien battle fleets, intercepted communications, and detailed invasion plans. "This information," Tae-ho said simply. The chamber erupted in chaos. Alien representatives shouted denials and accusations. Some demanded to know how humans had obtained classified military data. Others tried to leave the chamber immediately, but Tae-ho was not finished. "For 50 years, he continued, his voice growing louder, humanity has played by your rules. We've been polite. We've been respectful. We've accepted insults and restrictions and condescension because we wanted to be part of your galactic community." The shouting died down as aliens began to listen. "But now we know the truth," Tae-ho said. "You never intended to accept us as equals. You were just waiting for the right moment to destroy us." Commander Gorvtok stood up in the Gorvakian section, his massive frame towering over the chamber. "Humans are a threat to galactic stability. The Council has a right to defend itself." "Defend itself?" Tae-ho laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. "From what? Our cargo ships? Our trade goods?" "From your expansion," Gorvtok rumbled. "From your ambition. From your refusal to know your place." "Ah," Tae-ho said, nodding. "There it is. The real truth. You're not afraid of what we've done. You're afraid of what we might do." He looked around the chamber at faces that no longer seemed wise or ancient. They just looked frightened. "Well," Tae-ho continued, "let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to defend ourselves, and you're going to learn that humans are much more dangerous when we stop being polite. The Galactic Council chamber had never been this quiet. Kim Tae-ho stood in the center, no longer the bowing, polite diplomat who had first walked through these doors. The holographic display still showed alien invasion fleets moving toward human space, and every representative in the chamber knew they had been caught. "Representative Kim," Speaker Velthara said, her energy form flickering nervously, "these accusations are groundless. The movement of Council military forces is a matter of galactic security." "Galactic security," Tae-ho repeated. His voice was calm, but something dangerous lurked beneath the surface. "Is that what you call 4,000 warships converging on Earth?" Commander Gorvtok rose from his massive chair, his armor plates grinding together. "Humans have expanded beyond acceptable limits. The Council has voted to contain this threat." "When did the Council vote?" Tae-ho asked. "I don't recall Earth being consulted about our own extermination." "Junior species do not vote on matters of galactic importance," Zinthara chimed in, her crystal voice ringing through the chamber. "You exist at the Council's pleasure." Tae-ho looked at the assembled. "Aliens with something that might have been pity, do we? That's interesting. Let me show you something else." He activated another holographic display. This one showed human space, but not as the aliens expected to see it. Instead of scattered, defenseless colonies, the display revealed a vast network of hidden military installations. "What you're looking at," Tae-ho explained, "is the real human presence in this galaxy. Every cargo ship that left Earth carried construction materials. Every colony ship delivered military hardware. Every diplomatic mission gathered intelligence on your capabilities." The alien representatives stared at the display in shock. Human. Space wasn't a collection of vulnerable settlements. It was a fortress that had been 50 years in the building. "Impossible," whispered a Valian advisor. "Our scouts reported no military construction." "Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see," Tae-ho said. "Humans are very good at hiding things." At that moment, Captain Oh Hyun-soo materialized in the chamber via hologram. She stood next to Tae-ho, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's Deep Space Fleet. Behind her, the bridge of her ship bustled with activity. "Honored Council members," she said, her voice carrying none of Tae-ho's former deference. "I am Captain Oh Hyun-soo, commanding the Earth defense ship Sejong the Great. I bring greetings from Admiral Yoon and the rest of humanity's military." "Forces," Commander Gorvtok laughed, a sound like boulders crashing together. "One ship? You threaten the Council with one ship?" "Not one ship," Captain O replied. 2,347 ships, and that's just the ones we're willing to show you." The holographic display changed again. Now it showed the space around the Council station, which had seemed empty moments before. Suddenly it was filled with human vessels decloaking from stealth mode. Sleek warships surrounded the station on all sides. "How did they get so close?" a Zephyrite advisor asked frantically. "Our sensors detected nothing." "Human stealth technology," Captain O explained pleasantly. "We've had 50 years to study your detection systems. We know all their blind spots." In the chamber, alien representatives began to panic. Some tried to call their home fleets, only to discover that their communications were being jammed. Others demanded immediate military assistance from station security. "I wouldn't bother," Tae-ho said. "Your security systems are controlled by the station's main computer, which is now under human management. My colleague, Engineer Shin Woo-bin, is very good with alien technology." The truth was sinking in for the Council members. They had planned to destroy humanity, while the humans were isolated and helpless. Instead, they found themselves trapped on their own station, surrounded by an enemy they had completely underestimated. Speaker Velthara's energy form pulsed with anger and fear. "This is an act of war against the Galactic Council." "No," Tae-ho corrected her. Your invasion fleets were an act of war. This is just us responding appropriately. You cannot hope to defeat the combined military might of 12 species, Commander Gorvtok roared. Captain O smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Would you like to test that theory, Commander? Because right now, your combined military might is spread across the galaxy, planning to attack defenseless human colonies. Meanwhile, all of your political and military leaders are trapped on this station, surrounded by our fleet. The tactical situation was becoming clear to everyone in the chamber. The aliens had planned a devastating surprise attack, but humans had turned the tables. While alien fleets were positioned to attack empty colonies, Earth's forces had struck, at the heart of galactic government. "What do you want?" Speaker Velthara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What we've always wanted," Teho replied. "Respect, equality, and an end to the condescending treatment we've endured for 50 years. You could have asked for these things through proper channels," Zinthara protested. "We tried that," Teho said. "For 50 years we asked politely for fair treatment. You responded by planning our extermination." Admiral Yoon's hologram appeared next to Captain O's. The elderly human officer looked tired but determined. "Council members, let me explain the new reality. Our deep space monitors have been tracking your invasion fleets for weeks. We know their positions, their capabilities, and their planned attack routes. A new tactical display showed alien fleets scattered throughout the galaxy. Red targeting. Brackets appeared around each enemy formation. Every one of your fleets is currently targeted by human weapons platforms," Admiral Yoon continued. "Some of these platforms are invisible to your sensors. Others are disguised as civilian installations. All of them are capable of destroying your ships before they can react." Commander Gorvtok's armor plates clinked as he shifted nervously. "You're bluffing. Humans don't have that kind of military technology." "Don't we?" Admiral Yoon asked. "Dr. Lim, please demonstrate." On the tactical display, one of the smaller alien fleets suddenly found itself under attack. Invisible weapons platforms opened fire, and Gorvakian ships began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. "Nanopolymer warheads," Admiral Yoon explained, calmly. "They dissolve your armor at the molecular level. Very effective against Gorvakian hull design." The chamber erupted in chaos again. Alien representatives screamed orders into their communications devices, demanding immediate withdrawal of all military forces. But their messages were being intercepted and blocked by human electronic warfare systems. "Please, remain calm," Teho said, his voice cutting through the noise. "We're not monsters. The attack on that fleet was just a demonstration. Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your crews will be rescued and returned home safely." "What do you want from us?" Speaker Velthara asked again. "First, immediate withdrawal of all alien military forces from human space," Teho said. "Second, formal recognition of Earth as an equal member of the Galactic Council. Third, reparations for 50 years of discriminatory treatment." "And if we refuse?" Commander Gorvtok demanded. Captain O answered this time, her voice cold as space. "Then we stop being polite, and you find out what humans are really capable of when we're angry." The alien representatives looked around the chamber with new understanding. For 50 years they had seen humans as weak, eager to please newcomers. Now they realized that human politeness had never been weakness. It had been mercy. "You have 1 hour to consider our terms," Teho announced. "After that, we begin Phase 2 of our response to your invasion plans." "What's Phase 2? Avalian?" Advisor asked nervously. Teho smiled, and for the first time since arriving at the council station, it was a genuine human smile. Sharp, predatory, and absolutely terrifying to beings who had never seen humans drop their mask of civilization. "Phase 2 is when we stop pretending to be the species you thought we were," he said, "and start being the species we actually are." The 1-hour deadline passed in tense silence. Throughout the galaxy, alien fleet commanders waited for orders that never came. Their communications with the council station had been cut off by human jamming systems. All they knew was that their carefully planned invasion was falling apart. In the council chamber, Kim Tae-ho looked at his watch and nodded to Captain Oh Hyun-soo's hologram. "Time's up," he announced. "I take it from your silence that the council rejects our reasonable terms?" Speaker Velthara's energy form flickered desperately. "We need more time to consider. These demands require careful deliberation." "You've had 50 years to deliberate about treating us with respect," Tae-ho replied. "How much more time do you need?" Commander Gorvtok slammed his massive fist on the arm of his chair. "We will not be dictated to by an inferior species." "Inferior?" Tae-ho's voice remained calm, but something dangerous glittered in his eyes. "Admiral Yoon, please begin Phase 2. On the tactical display, human forces throughout the galaxy suddenly revealed themselves. Ships that had been hidden for months dropped their stealth systems. Military platforms disguised as mining stations activated their weapon arrays. Even civilian cargo vessels shed their peaceful disguises to reveal heavy combat modifications. But the real shock came when the display showed Earth's secret shipyards. Hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae throughout human space, massive construction. Facilities had been building warships for decades. Now they released their products into space like a swarm of metallic insects. 2,000 ships, Admiral Yoon announced. "That was what we were willing to show you an hour ago. The real number is closer to 8,000. Even the usually composed Zephirites began to show signs of panic. Zinthara's crystal form chimed frantically as she tried to process the implications. "Impossible," she whispered. "We monitored all human construction. We would have detected such a massive military buildup." "You monitored what we wanted you to monitor," Captain O replied. "Every cargo ship, every mining operation, every civilian. Transport was also building our real fleet. We've been at war with you for 50 years. You just didn't know it." The truth was even more shocking than the aliens realized. Humanity had learned from their own history that peaceful species rarely stayed peaceful for long. Earth's government had begun preparing for galactic war the moment they made first contact with alien civilizations. Dr. Lim Hai-young appeared on the display next to Admiral Yoon. The elderly woman looked like someone's grandmother, but she was actually Earth's most dangerous weapons designer. "Honored council members," she said sweetly, "I'd like to demonstrate some of our recent innovations." On the tactical screen, one of the Gorvakian invasion fleets found itself under attack by invisible weapons. But this time, the human weapons were different. Instead of explosions, the alien ships simply began to dissolve. "Adaptive nanomachines," Dr. Lim explained cheerfully. "They analyze the molecular structure of your hull materials and reconfigure themselves to break the chemical bonds. Very efficient. The Gorvakian ships didn't explode. They just came apart like sand castles in the wind. Their atoms scattered into space. Within minutes, an entire battle fleet had been reduced to its component elements." "My people!" Commander Gorvtok roared. "You're murdering my people!" "Actually, no," Dr. Lim corrected. "The nanomachines only affect inorganic materials. Your crews are being transported to safety before their ships dissolve. We're not monsters, Commander. We're just very, very good at warfare." The demonstration continued with the Valian energy fleet. Human weapons platforms fired streams of particles that disrupted the energy being's coherence fields. Valian ships lost power and drifted helplessly in space, their crews unconscious but alive. "Quantum disruption beams," Dr. Lim noted, "specifically tuned to Valian energy frequencies. Your people will wake up in a few hours with terrible headaches, but no permanent damage." The Zephyrite crystal fleet fared no better. Human sonic weapons filled space with harmonic frequencies that shattered the aliens' crystalline hulls. The beautiful crystal ships broke apart like glass sculptures dropped on concrete. "Harmonic resonance weapons," Dr. Lim continued her lecture. We studied zephyrite crystal composition for 20 years to find the exact frequency that would cause structural failure. Fascinating work, really. In the council chamber, alien representatives watched in horror as their mighty fleets were systematically destroyed. But what terrified them most was how clinical and efficient the human attacks were. There was no passion, no rage, just cold, calculated destruction. "Stop!" Speaker Velthera screamed. "We surrender! We accept your terms!" "I'm sorry," Tejo said, "but the time for negotiation has passed. You declared war on humanity. Now you get to experience what human warfare actually looks like." The tactical display shifted to show the broader galactic situation. Human forces were moving throughout the galaxy, liberating oppressed species that had been under council control for centuries. The ancient alien empire was collapsing in real time. Captain Nam Yunji appeared on the display, broadcasting from the bridge of her infiltration ship. Behind her, alien prisoners could be seen, in restraint fields. "Phase 3 is complete," she reported. "We have secured the Council's central command facility and captured their military high command. All alien fleet coordination has been terminated." "Excellent work, Captain," Admiral Yoon replied. "Begin Phase 4. "What's Phase 4? A terrified Valiant advisor asked. Engineer Shin Wubin's hologram materialized in the chamber. The young man looked tired but satisfied. "Phase 4 is when we take control of your civilian infrastructure," he explained. "Communication networks, transportation systems, power grids, everything. Throughout the galaxy, human cyber warfare. Specialists activated programs they had been inserting into alien computer systems for decades. Every time a human diplomat had visited an alien world, they had left behind small pieces of code. Every trade agreement had included hidden data, packages. Every cultural exchange had been an opportunity for espionage. Now, all of those hidden programs activated simultaneously. Alien communication networks crashed. Transportation systems shut down. Even the lights went out on worlds that had been the center of galactic civilization for thousands of years. 50 years, Shin said quietly. That's how long we've been preparing for this day. Every handshake, every smile, every polite bow was part of the plan. The council station itself began to experience system failures. Emergency lighting activated as the main power grid went offline. Life support systems switched to backup mode. The aliens found themselves trapped not just by human warships, but by their own technology turning against them. "Why are you doing this?" Speaker Velthara asked desperately. "Because you forced us to," Tejo replied. "We tried to be good neighbors. We offered trade, friendship, cultural exchange. You responded with condescension, restrictions, and finally attempted genocide. We were protecting the galaxy. From what? Our ambition? Our refusal to bow low enough?" Tejo shook his head. "No, you were protecting your own power. And now that power belongs to us." General Seo Kang-min appeared on the display, broadcasting from the surface of the Gorvakian homeworld. Behind him, the alien capital city was dark except for the glow of human occupation forces. "All major council worlds are under human control," he reported. "Resistance has been minimal. Most alien military forces surrendered as soon as they realized the scope of our capabilities." Commander Gorvtok stared at the display in disbelief. "You conquered our homeworld? In hours?" "Your homeworld conquered itself," General Seo replied. "We just activated the systems we installed in your infrastructure over the past 5 decades. Every building contract with human corporations, every technology trade, every cultural exchange gave us access to your most vital systems." The aliens were beginning to understand the true scope of humanity's deception. For 50 years, they had welcomed human merchants, diplomats, and scholars into their most secure facilities. Every human had been a spy. Every interaction, a chance to gather intelligence or plant hidden assets. You were never the helpless species you pretended to be, Zinthara realized. "No," Tejo confirmed. We were predators studying our prey, and you made it so easy by treating us like harmless pets. Admiral, Yoon's voice cut through the chamber. All Council fleet elements have been neutralized. Total time from Phase 2 initiation to complete victory, 4 hours and 17 minutes. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of failing life support systems. The galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations had been brought to their knees in less than half a day, and humanity had done it all while maintaining the pretense of polite civilization right up to the very end. The council chamber looked like a disaster zone. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the faces of defeated alien representatives. The mighty species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia now sat in darkness, surrounded by the evidence of their total defeat. Kim Tae-ho walked slowly around the chamber, no longer the respectful diplomat who had once bowed to these same beings. His footsteps echoed in the silence as he studied each alien representative in turn. "You know," he said conversationally, "the interesting thing about human history is how often we've been underestimated. Other species always assume we're weak, because we tried diplomacy first." Speaker Velthera's energy form flickered weakly. The life support failures were affecting her ability to maintain coherence. "What do you want from us now?" she whispered. "Now?" Tae-ho paused in front of her section. "Now we have a conversation about what the galaxy looks like going forward." General Seo Kang-min's hologram updated the tactical display. Human forces had secured over 300 worlds in the past 6 hours. The speed of their victory was stunning, but what impressed the aliens most was the precision. There had been no unnecessary destruction, no civilian casualties, no mindless revenge. "Our forces have established control over all major council territories," General Seo reported. "Local governments are being maintained but under human oversight. We've also liberated approximately 50 oppressed species that were under council control." Commander Gorvtok's armor plates rattled as he struggled to understand. "Liberated? What do you mean?" Captain Nam Yoonji appeared on the display, broadcasting from a world that had been a Gorvakian slave colony. Behind her, crowds of strange, insect-like beings celebrated in the streets. "The Keth Mori have been under Gorvakian control for 800 years, she explained. "They were forced to mine crystals for your war machine. As of 2 hours ago, they're free." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered, enslaved, or subjugated by the Council were suddenly finding their chains, broken by human military forces. "We studied your history very carefully," Tae-ho explained to the shocked Council members. "Every species you claimed to protect was actually being exploited. Every world you said was under Council guidance was really a colony providing free resources to your core worlds." Dr. Kim Min-jung materialized next to the other holograms. The xenoanthropologist looked exhausted, but satisfied. "My teams have been documenting Council oppression for decades. We have detailed records of forced labor, resource extraction, cultural suppression, and genocide. 57 species wiped out entirely because they refused Council authority." The alien representatives tried to protest, but the evidence was overwhelming. Human intelligence services had been recording their crimes for half a century, building a case that justified everything humanity was now doing. "You're not the wise, benevolent leaders you pretended to be," Tae-ho continued. "You're an old, corrupt empire that got fat and lazy from exploiting weaker species. And like all empires, you were eventually going to fall. So, you decided to conquer us instead?" Zinthara's crystal voice was barely audible through her species' communication difficulties. "Conquer?" Tae-ho looked genuinely surprised. "Is that what you think we're doing?" Engineer Shin Woo-bin stepped forward from where he had been working at a control station. The young man had been restoring power to the station's critical systems, making sure the alien representatives remained alive and comfortable. "Actually," Shin said, Conquest was never the plan. Regime change was the plan. What's the difference? Speaker Velthara asked. The difference, Admiral Yoon explained, is that we don't want to rule you. We want to replace you with something better. The tactical display changed again, showing human forces throughout the galaxy. But instead of occupying conquered worlds, they were helping local populations establish new governments. Human advisors worked alongside liberated species to build democratic institutions. Every world under council control is getting the chance to choose its own future, Admiral Yoon continued. Some will join a new galactic federation based on equality and mutual respect. Others will remain independent. The choice is theirs. Commander Gorvtok struggled to his feet, his massive frame still impressive despite his defeat. You cannot simply destroy an order that has existed for 10,000 years. Can't we? Taeho asked mildly. I'm pretty sure we just did. The galaxy needs leadership. Without the council, there will be chaos. The galaxy needs better leadership, Taeho corrected. Leadership that doesn't require the threat of extermination to maintain order. Captain Oh Hyun-soo's image appeared on the display. All council. Military assets have been secured or disabled. We're ready to begin Phase 5. What's Phase 5? A Valian advisor asked nervously. Phase 5 is where we decide what to do with you, Taeho said simply. The alien representatives exchanged frightened glances. They had seen what human weapons could do to their fleets. If humanity wanted revenge for 50 years of condescension and a planned genocide, there was nothing to stop them. But Taeho's next words surprised them. You have 3 choices, he announced. First, you can be tried for crimes against galactic civilization. We have evidence of genocide, slavery, and systematic oppression spanning thousands of years. The penalty for these crimes would be life. Imprisonment. The chamber filled with protests and denials, but Taeho continued speaking over them. Second, you can accept exile to a remote world where you'll live out your lives in comfortable isolation. Your species will be cared for, but you'll never again hold positions of authority over other beings. And the third choice? Speaker Velthara asked, though she clearly dreaded the answer. The third choice, Taeho said, is to help us build something better. The silence that followed was profound. The aliens had expected death, torture, or enslavement. They had not expected mercy. Help you how? Commander Gorvtok asked suspiciously. By using your experience to avoid the mistakes of the old council, Taeho explained. You've ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. You understand the challenges of managing hundreds of different species across vast distances. That knowledge could be valuable in building a more just system. Dr. Kim Min-jung stepped forward. Humanity has studied your history extensively, but we're still newcomers to galactic politics. We could use advisors who understand the complexities involved. You want us to help you rule the galaxy? Zinthara asked in disbelief. We want you to help us create a galaxy that doesn't need rulers, Taeho corrected. A federation where species cooperate voluntarily, where disputes are resolved through negotiation instead of force, where no one has the power to threaten genocide when they don't get their way. The alien representatives looked at each other, uncertainly. After hours of expecting death or imprisonment, the offer of redemption seemed almost too good to be true. Why would you trust us? Speaker Velthara asked. We plan to exterminate your species. Because, Taeho said, humans believe in second chances. We've made plenty of mistakes in our own history. The difference is, we learned from them. Engineer. Shin had finished restoring power to the chamber. The lights came back on, and the life support systems resumed normal operation. The aliens found themselves breathing easier for the first time in hours. You have 24 hours to decide, Taeho announced. Think carefully. This is the only offer you'll receive, as human forces consolidated their control throughout. The galaxy, the old order crumbled and something new began to take its place. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together under human mediation. Worlds that had been stripped bare began receiving aid to rebuild their ecosystems. And in the council chamber, the galaxy's former rulers faced the most important choice of their lives: remain prisoners of their past or help build a better future. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The question now was, what would replace it? 6 months had passed since the day humanity dropped their mask of politeness. The old council station had been converted into a coordination center for the new Galactic Federation. Instead of a chamber where powerful species dictated terms to weaker ones, it now hosted meetings where all voices were heard equally. Ambassador Lee Jun-ho walked into what had once been the council chamber. Unlike his predecessor Kim Tae-ho, Lee did not bow to anyone. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone representing the galaxy's dominant military power, but also with the dignity of someone who had earned that position through merit rather than birth. The chamber itself looked different. The elevated sections where council species had literally looked down on others had been removed. Now all representatives sat at the same level, in a circle that emphasized equality rather than hierarchy. Speaker Velthara was still present, but no longer as the supreme authority. She had chosen to accept humanity's offer of redemption and now served as an advisor on energy being physiology. Her form was more stable than it had been during those dark hours when the station's life support was failing. "Ambassador Lee," she said as he entered, "the Gorvakian delegation has a proposal regarding mining rights in the Outer Rim." "I'll be happy to hear it," Lee replied, taking his seat in the circle. His tone was professional, but not deferential. Those days were over forever. Commander Gorvtok had also chosen to work with the new system, though he had struggled more than the others to adapt. Gorvakian culture was built around dominance hierarchies, and the concept of equality was foreign. To them, "Our people need access to the titanium deposits in the Cygni system," Gorvtok rumbled. "These materials are essential for our construction projects." "The Cygni system is now under the protection of the Velthari Collective," Lee replied. "They've been rebuilding their civilization since you liberated them from your forced labor camps. Any mining operations would need their consent." Gorvtok's armor plates clicked together in frustration. "The Velthari are insects. They don't understand the importance of these resources." The chamber fell silent. Even after 6 months, some aliens still struggled with the new reality. "Commander Gorvtok," Lee said quietly, "I'm going to pretend you didn't just refer to a member species of this federation as insects. But if it happens again, you'll be asked to leave these proceedings." Dr. Kim Min-jung, who was attending as humanity's xenocultural advisor, leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps we could arrange a joint meeting between Gorvakian engineers and Velthari representatives. Many species have different perspectives on resource management that could benefit both parties." "An excellent suggestion," Lee agreed. "The Velthari have developed some fascinating biotechnology for mineral extraction that doesn't require strip mining. Perhaps there's an opportunity for technology sharing." This was how the new system worked. Instead of powerful species taking what they wanted from weaker ones, disputes were resolved through negotiation and mutual benefit. It was messier than the old council's authoritarian efficiency, but it was also much more just. Zinthara chimed softly from her position in the circle. The Zephyrite had adapted better than the others to the new system, perhaps because her species valued harmony above dominance. "The Crystalline Consortium has been working with human engineers on new communication technologies," she announced. "We believe we can create a galaxy-wide network that will allow instant communication between all member worlds." "That's impressive," Lee said. "What would you need from the Federation to make this happen?" "Primarily cooperation from the various species to establish relay stations throughout their territories. The technology requires precise harmonic calibration that must be done in person." Captain Nam Yunji, who was representing military affairs, nodded approvingly. Enhanced communication will improve our ability to respond to emergencies and coordinate disaster relief. I'll recommend full military support for the project." These were the kinds of conversations that now filled the galaxy's governing body. Instead of threats and demands, there was cooperation and mutual aid. Instead of species struggling against oppression, there were voluntary partnerships that benefited everyone involved, but not everyone was happy with the new order. Engineer Shin Woo-bin appeared via hologram, looking tired and frustrated. "Ambassador, we're still dealing with resistance movements on several former council worlds. Some groups are calling for a return to the old ways." "What kind of resistance?" Lee asked. "Mostly political. Former council loyalists who believe the galaxy needs strong leadership instead of what they call human weakness. They're trying to convince their populations that the Federation is temporary and that the old order will return." Lee sighed. This was the problem with overthrowing a system that had existed for 10,000 years. Many beings simply couldn't imagine anything different. "Any violence?" he asked. "Nothing our peacekeeping forces can't handle," Shin replied. "But there was an incident on Gorvakia Prime last week. A group calling themselves the True Council attempted to assassinate a Federation administrator." Commander Gorvtok's armor plates shifted uncomfortably. "My people are adjusting poorly to democracy. We are accustomed to following the strongest leader. When there is no clear hierarchy, some become confused and angry. Which is why we need patience," Dr. Kim Min-jung added. "Cultural change takes time. Humans struggled with similar issues during our own democratic transitions." Admiral Yoon appeared on the communication display, broadcasting from his flagship in the Centauri sector. "The resistance movements aren't a serious military threat, but they are causing problems for reconstruction efforts. Some liberated worlds are hesitant to accept Federation aid because they fear retaliation from Council loyalists." "What do you recommend?" Lee asked. "Increased security for Federation personnel and maybe some public demonstrations of our commitment to this new system. People need to see that the changes are permanent." President Park Soo-jin materialized via hologram from Earth. The elderly woman looked as determined as ever, but Lee could see the strain of 6 months of constant crisis management in her face. "I've been reviewing reports from across the galaxy," she said. "The good news is that most species are adapting well to the Federation system. Trade is up, conflicts are down, and we're making real progress on humanitarian issues." "And the bad news?" Lee asked, though he could guess. "The bad news is that some of our own people are getting impatient. Earth's population supported the war because they saw the genocide being planned against us. But now that the immediate threat is over, some are questioning why we're spending so much time and resources helping other species. This was, perhaps, humanity's greatest challenge. They had revealed their true strength to save themselves from extinction. But now they had to use that strength responsibly. The temptation to become the new council ruling through superior military power was always present." "Public opinion?" Lee asked. "Mixed," President Park replied. "Approval ratings for the Federation project are still positive, but they're dropping. Some people want us to focus on human needs instead of galactic reconstruction." Speaker Velthara's energy form pulsed with what might have been concern. "If humanity withdraws support from the Federation, the galaxy will collapse back into chaos. Many species depend on your protection and resources." "Which is exactly why we can't withdraw," Lee said firmly. "We broke the old system. Now we have a responsibility to build something better." Dr. Kim Min-jung pulled up a holographic display showing Federation membership statistics. "We now have 237 member species, with more applications arriving every week. The system is working, but it's still fragile." "How fragile?" Lee asked. "If humanity pulled back even partially, I estimate we'd lose about 40% of our members within a year. Without human military protection and economic support, many species would have no choice but to return to the old patterns of dominance and subjugation." The weight of responsibility was enormous. Humanity had wanted nothing more than to be left alone to pursue their own expansion and development. Instead, they had been forced to become the galaxy's protectors and guides. "The irony is remarkable," Commander Gorvtok observed. "You humans complained about being treated as an inferior species. Now you find yourselves responsible for everyone's welfare." "The difference," Lee replied, "is that we never wanted to rule anyone. We just wanted to be treated with respect. And now that you have that respect, you're discovering that power comes with obligations," Zinthara chimed. Lee looked around the circle at beings who had once planned humanity's extermination and now worked alongside human representatives to build a better galaxy. The transformation was remarkable, but it was also incomplete and potentially reversible. "The question," he said finally, "is whether we can build something strong enough to survive without constant human oversight. Because eventually we need to be partners in this federation, not its guardians." Speaker Velthara's form flickered with what might have been hope. "Perhaps that is the true test of your success. When you can step back and let others lead, you will know the galaxy has truly changed." Outside the chamber, the galaxy continued its slow transformation from 2 years had passed since the day humanity's polite mode was disabled. Captain Hong Sok-jin commanded the Federation peacekeeping vessel Incheon's Honor as it patrolled the trade routes between the Inner Rim and the frontier worlds. These same routes had once been controlled by alien powers who charged tribute from weaker species. Now, they were protected by a joint fleet representing dozens of different worlds. The bridge of Hong's ship was a symbol of how much had changed. His navigation officer was a Velthari whose insect-like features had once marked his species as slaves to the Gorvakians. His weapons officer was a young Zephyrite whose crystal form sparkled with enthusiasm for her duties. Even his communications officer was a reformed Valian energy being who had once served the old council. "Captain," the Velthari officer clicked in his translated voice, "we're receiving a distress signal from the merchant vessel Golden Prosperity. They report being attacked by raiders near the Epsilon Nebula." "Set course immediately," Hong ordered. "Alert the other patrol ships in our sector." As the Incheon's Honor accelerated toward the distress signal, Hong reflected on how routine this had become. Pirates and raiders still existed, but they no longer enjoyed protection from corrupt council officials. Federation peacekeepers responded quickly to any threat against civilian shipping. "Captain," the Zephyrite weapons officer chimed, "sensors are detecting 6 raider vessels surrounding a human cargo ship. The attackers appear to be using old Gorvakian military equipment." "Probably council loyalists," Hong muttered. Despite 2 years of Federation rule, some beings still hoped to restore the old system. They formed criminal gangs that preyed on trade routes, trying to prove that the new government was weak. "Open a communication channel to the raiders," Hong commanded. The main screen activated, showing a scarred Gorvakian wearing the remnants of council military armor. Behind him, other aliens worked at weapon controls that had clearly been stolen from abandoned military bases. "This is Captain Thokmar of the True Council Liberation Fleet," the Gorvakians snarled. "We do not recognize the authority of the human puppet government. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Hong looked at the raider leader with something that might have been pity. "This is Captain Hong Sok-jin, commanding the Federation peacekeeping vessel Incheon's Honor. You are attacking civilian shipping in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately and your crews will be treated fairly." Thokmar's laugh was like grinding stone. "You think we fear your Federation? We remember when humans cowered before the Council. Your strength is an illusion." "Is it?" Hong asked calmly. "Would you like to test that theory?" The raiders opened fire first, their stolen weapons lighting up space with energy beams and projectiles. But their equipment was old, poorly maintained, and operated by crews who had never received proper military training. The Incheon's Honor was a different kind of vessel entirely, built using the most advanced human technology and operated by A crew trained in the best military traditions of a dozen different species. It was designed specifically for peacekeeping operations. "Disable their weapons and engines," Hong ordered. "Minimum force necessary." The Federation ship's response was swift and precise. Targeted beam weapons took out the raiders' offensive systems without causing major hull damage. Tractor beams grabbed the disabled vessels before they could drift into the nebula. "This is impossible!" Thokmar screamed over the communications channel. "Council ships should be superior to human technology." "Former Council ships," Hong corrected gently. "Operated by crews who learned their tactics fighting weaker opponents. We learned our tactics fighting opponents who wanted to exterminate us." Within an hour, the raider crews had been taken into custody, and the damaged cargo ship was under tow to the nearest Federation facility. It was exactly the kind of operation that happened dozens of times each day throughout the galaxy. But as Hong reviewed the incident reports, he noticed something troubling. This was the 5th attack by Council loyalists this month, and they were getting more organized. Worse, they were starting to target Federation officials and infrastructure instead of just civilian shipping. "Captain," his communications officer pulsed, "we're receiving a priority message from Federation Command." The holographic image of Admiral Yoon appeared on the bridge. The elderly human looked tired, but his expression was determined. "Captain Hong," he said, "we need to discuss the growing separatist movement in the Outer Rim. Some species are calling for withdrawal from the Federation." "Which species?" Hong asked. "Primarily former Council worlds that are unhappy with the new equality requirements. They want to return to the old system where they could exploit weaker neighbors." This was the challenge that Federation leadership had been dreading. The galaxy was vast, and not every species was committed to the ideals of cooperation and mutual respect. Some had joined the Federation only because they feared human military power. Now, 2 years later, they were testing whether that commitment was permanent. "What's the official response?" Hong asked. "President Park is meeting with Federation Council representatives tomorrow," Admiral Yoon replied. "But the military position is clear. Any species that wants to leave the Federation peacefully can do so. Any species that tries to restore the old system of oppression will face intervention." The balance was delicate. Humanity had overthrown the Council to end tyranny, not to create a new form of it. But they also couldn't allow the galaxy to slide back into the chaos and exploitation that had existed before. "Understood, Admiral," Hong said. "What are your orders?" "Continue normal patrols, but be prepared for larger operations if the situation deteriorates. And Hong, make sure your crew understands what we're really protecting out here." After the communication ended, Hong called his senior officers to the bridge. They represented 5 different species, but they all wore the same uniform and served the same ideals. "You all heard the Admiral's briefing," he said. "Some worlds are considering leaving the Federation. How do you feel about that?" The Velthari navigation officer was the first to speak. "My homeworld was enslaved for 8 centuries before humans freed us. If the old Council returns, we will be slaves again within a generation." The Zephyrite weapons officer's crystal form chimed agreement. "My people value harmony above all else. The Federation has brought more peace to the galaxy than we have seen in millennia." Even the Valian communications officer, whose species had been part of the original Council, pulsed with conviction. "The old ways were corrupt. We told ourselves we were maintaining order, but we were really just maintaining our own power." Hong nodded. "This was why the Federation worked, despite all its challenges. The species who had experienced both systems knew which one was better. Then we continue our mission," he said simply. "We protect the trade routes, we keep the peace, and we prove that cooperation is stronger than domination." On Earth, President Park Soo-jin sat in her office, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The numbers told a complicated story. Crime was down by 60% since the Federation was established. Interspecies conflicts had dropped by 80%. Economic prosperity was up on almost every world. but there were also troubling signs. Some human colonies were demanding more resources be devoted to their expansion instead of galactic peacekeeping. Alien separatist movements were growing stronger. And most concerning of all, a new generation of humans was growing up who had never known what it was like to be the weakest species in the galaxy. Dr. Kim Min-jung entered the president's office carrying a thick report on galactic social trends. The xenoanthropologist looked older than her years, worn down by 2 years of constant crisis management. "Madam President," she said, "I have the analysis you requested on human attitudes toward the Federation." "Give me the summary," Park said, tiredly. 63% of humans still support the Federation project. But among humans under 30, that number drops to 41%. They see galactic peacekeeping as a burden that prevents us from focusing on human development. This was the paradox of success. The generation that remembered being threatened with genocide supported using human strength to protect others. But younger humans, who had only known their species as the galaxy's dominant power, saw no reason to help aliens who had once planned to destroy them. "Recommendations?" Park asked. "We need to remind people why we're doing this," Kim said. "Not just the moral arguments, but the practical ones. A stable galaxy benefits humanity more than a fragmented one. And if that's not enough?" Kim hesitated before answering. "Then we may need to accept that the Federation is a temporary arrangement. Eventually, other species will need to take responsibility for their own security." Back on the patrol ship, Captain Hong received an update from Federation intelligence. The separatist movements were more serious than previously thought. Several former Council worlds were secretly rebuilding their military forces, hoping to recreate the old system of regional hegemonies. "Captain," his Velthari officer clicked urgently, "long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet movement in the Beta sector. At least 200 ships heading toward the Kethmori homeworld." Hong felt his blood run cold. The Kethmori were one of the species humanity had liberated from Gorvakian slavery. Captain Lee So-min stood on the bridge of her cargo ship, the Soul's Pride, watching the stars streak past through hyperspace. Her crew of 22 humans worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems during the long journey to the Kepler sector. They were carrying medical supplies and rare earth metals to trade with alien colonies. So-min had been a cargo captain for 8 years, ever since humanity started trading with other species. She knew the shipping lanes better than most pilots, and she had never violated traffic regulations. Her record was perfect, which was why this particular mission was so important. "Captain," called out her navigation officer, Nam Unji, "we're approaching the Kepler sector boundary. Zephyrite patrol ships are requesting our cargo manifest." "Send it immediately," So-min ordered. "Full compliance as always." The Soul's Pride dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrite territory. 3 crystal ships waited for them, each one gleaming like a giant diamond against the black of space. The Zephyrite had controlled this sector for thousands of years and guarded it jealously. "Human vessel Soul's Pride," came a voice like breaking glass over the communication system. "This is Patrol Leader Zinthmore. You are cleared to proceed, on Trading Route 7 only. Any deviation will result in immediate seizure of your vessel." "Understood, Patrol Leader," So-min replied politely. "Soul's Pride will follow Route 7 exactly." But as they flew deeper into Zephyrite space, something felt wrong. So-min had traveled Route 7 dozens of times before. Today, the Zephyrite patrol ships were following unusually close. Their scanners were running constant sweeps of her cargo holds. "Captain," whispered Chief Engineer Shin Woo-bin, "they're scanning us with military-grade sensors. That's not standard. Procedure for a routine inspection." So-min nodded grimly. "Keep monitoring their signals. Something's not right here." 3 hours into their journey, the trap was sprung. Patrol Leader Zinthmore's voice crackled over the communications again, but this time it was angry. "Human vessel Soul's Pride, you have violated sacred Zephyrite. Navigation protocols. Your ship has deviated from approved shipping lanes and entered restricted space. So-min stared at her navigation display in shock. According to every instrument on her ship, they had followed Route 7 perfectly. Patrol Leader, our instruments show no deviation from the approved route. Please verify our position. Do not argue with Zephyrite authority, human, Zinthmore snapped. Your primitive navigation systems are obviously malfunctioning. You will surrender your vessel for inspection and pay compensation for this violation. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, So-min's crew exchanged worried glances. They all knew they had done nothing wrong. This felt like a setup, but they were deep in alien territory with only 3 patrol ships for company. What kind of compensation? So-min asked, though she suspected she would not like the answer. All cargo will be confiscated, Zinthmore declared. Your species will accept permanent restrictions on human shipping in this sector, and your government will formally apologize to the Zephyrite Confederation for this insult. So-min felt anger building in her chest, but she forced her voice to remain calm. Patrol Leader, I request permission to contact Earth's diplomatic representatives before agreeing to these terms. Permission denied. You will comply immediately or face military action. Back on the council station, Kim Tae-ho received an emergency message from Captain So-min. His hands shook slightly as he read the details of what was happening in the Kepler sector. This was exactly what Earth's intelligence services had been expecting. Park Ji-woo watched her boss read the message, noting how his expression darkened. Bad news? She asked. The worst, Tae-ho said quietly. They're making their move. Within minutes, Tae-ho was requesting an emergency council session. The alien representatives gathered in the Great Chamber, some looking annoyed at being disturbed during their rest period. Honored council members, Tae-ho began, his voice still respectful despite his anger. I come before you regarding a serious incident involving one of our cargo vessels. Speaker Velthara's energy form flickered with impatience. What incident, Representative Kim? Captain Lee So-min of the Soul's Pride has been accused of violating Zephyrite shipping lanes, despite following approved routes exactly. The Zephyrites are demanding confiscation of all cargo, permanent restrictions on human trade, and a formal apology from Earth. The Zephyrite representative, Zinthara, stepped forward with a sound like wind through crystal. The human vessel violated our sacred space. This is an established fact. Earth must accept the consequences of its pilot's incompetence. Our navigation logs clearly show, Tae-ho began. Human navigation technology is primitive, interrupted Commander Gorvtok from the Gorvakian section. Perhaps humans are simply not advanced enough for independent space travel. Rumbles of agreement came from several alien sections. The Council members had been waiting for an excuse like this. Humans were expanding too quickly, taking too much trade that had once belonged to older species. This incident would let them put the newcomers in their proper place. Tae-ho felt something cold settle in his stomach. For months, Earth's intelligence services had been detecting unusual military movements throughout the galaxy. Alien fleets had been repositioning themselves near human territory. Diplomatic communications had become increasingly hostile. Now he understood. The Soul's Pride incident was not about shipping violations. It was the opening move in something much larger. Honored council members, Tae-ho said, I formally request a full investigation into this incident before any penalties are imposed. Request. Denied, Speaker Velthara announced. The Zephyrites are respected members of this council. Their word is sufficient evidence. At that moment, Choi Dong-wook, Earth's military attaché, entered the chamber. He walked quickly to where Tae-ho stood and whispered urgently in his ear. What he said made Tae-ho's face go pale. The message from Earth was short, but terrifying. Massive alien battle fleets had been detected massing at the edges of human space. Intercepted communications revealed that several council species were planning to use the Soul's Pride incident as justification for military action against Earth. Humanity's worst fears were coming true. The galaxy's older species had decided that humans were becoming too powerful, too independent. They planned to crush human civilization before it could threaten their ancient dominance. Tae-ho looked around the council chamber with new eyes. These beings who had seemed so wise, so advanced, were actually predators preparing to attack. Every polite smile, every diplomatic gesture had been a lie. Representative Kim, Speaker Velthera continued, "Does Earth accept the Zephyrite demands?" For a long moment, Tae-ho said nothing. Around the chamber, alien representatives waited for his answer. They expected him to bow, to apologize, to accept whatever punishment they chose to impose. That was what humans always did. But something had changed in Tae-ho's expression. The respectful, eager-to-please look was fading. In its place was something the council had never seen before on a human face. Cold, calculating anger. "No," Tae-ho said quietly. "Earth does not accept these demands." The chamber fell silent. Several alien representatives looked shocked. Humans never said no to the council. They always apologized and complied, no matter what was asked of them. "I beg your pardon?" Speaker Velthara's energy form flickered with surprise. Tae-ho looked up at the assembled aliens, and when he spoke again, his voice had lost all trace of diplomatic politeness. "I said no. And I think it's time this council learned what that word means when humans say it."